Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me for today's webinar. We are very lucky to have Pfeiffer University on our webinar today with us, so we're going to be going through a bit about their deployment as well as general Meraki content as well. So we're going to start with an introduction to Meraki, who we are, what we do. We'll review some of our technology architecture for those of you who are newer to the Meraki solution. I'll touch on why cloud managed IT is a smart choice. And then we'll pull in the Pfeiffer team, and they'll walk us through their decision-making process as well as their actual deployment. We'll dive into their actual live network on the Meraki dashboard, and then we'll recap on the Meraki product families, and I will do my very best to leave some time at the end for Q&A. Before I move on, I do want to say that if you have any questions during the demo or throughout the rest of the webinar, you are absolutely welcome to type them into the chat box or the Q&A box. I have two colleagues in the room who are here to answer any and all questions that might come up as they pop into your head. So if you feel like you might forget and don't want to hold out until the end, please feel free to type those into WebEx as we move along here. So just a reminder that we are offering free APs to those who qualify after attending this webinar. So if you are an IT professional, please check eligibility details at meraki.cisco.com/free-AP. We are giving away one of our still pretty new Cisco Meraki 802.11 AC Wave 2 APs, actually, the MR33. And that's coming with a 3-year cloud management license. I really encourage you to get your hands on this AP because that's going to be the best way to really understand how Meraki works and what Meraki can do for you. It's also just a great deal, of course. Free AP, can't go wrong. So look out for a call from your Meraki rep. If you are sure that you are eligible, just keep an eye out for a call from your rep. They will be contacting you within the next week or so, if they haven't already. So a little bit of background on Cisco Meraki. Who are we? We are an integrated hardware, software, and cloud solution all in one, and our mission is simplifying IT. So we started back in 2006 as a grad student research project out of MIT. Those students were researching wireless mesh wireless networks in the city of Boston. And they were presenting their findings, and they were lucky enough to have a Google exec in the room listening to that presentation. After that, they were approached by that exec who said, "This seems like a great business idea. I'll fund you to start a company," and Meraki was born. So we started out with wireless, but we then moved into switching, network security, communications, mobility management, and now security cameras as well. So it's sort of a mouthful. We do have a lot of products in our portfolio, and that's really unique. So you'll see that, cloud management is not as unique these days. There's a lot of competitors, of course, but we are truly the only company that has that broad range in our IT portfolio. So we're the only solution where you're going to be able to manage all those 6 different parts of your network from one single location. And like I mentioned, we are an integrated end-to-end solution, somewhat similar to, kind of the ecosystem that Apple's built out. And the reason we've done that is that we can really keep, a close eye on the user experience. That's a really big focus at Meraki. We want to ensure that our customers are getting the absolute best experience from their products that they can. And the way that we can maintain that quality is by having control over the hardware, the software, and the cloud components. So all of our engineers are in-house in our San Francisco headquarters office. They all sit in the same area of the office so they can turn around and tap each other on the shoulder, ask questions, and make sure that all of our devices are going to be able to intelligently communicate with one another, which they do. So you probably already know this, but we were acquired by Cisco back in 2012, so it's been almost 5 years at this point. I think next month will mark the 5-year anniversary. So we are now a leader in cloud managed networking, and we are one of Cisco's fastest growing portfolios, which is really exciting. So, partnering up with Cisco has allowed us to branch out really quickly and expand our offering, of course. We now have well over 140,000 unique customers. I think that number is actually more than 180,000 now, and over 2 million Meraki network devices online, which is kind of mind-boggling, but really cool. So a little bit about the architecture. For those who are new to cloud management, there are always questions and concerns about security and, are we watching what you're doing in your network and that kind of thing. So I want to talk you through this. If you look at the diagram on the left, you'll see that what this is really trying to explain is that any and all of your user traffic is going to flow out of band. So none of it's ever going to the cloud. The only thing that's going to the cloud is management data. So as an example, if you have clients on your network that are accessing Google or Facebook, we'll be able to see that they went to Google or Facebook, but we won't be able to see, for instance, what they were searching for or whose page they were visiting. So we get that really high level metadata, that layer 7 visibility, but we're not going to, invade anyone's privacy by seeing, a more granular level. So all of this translates to, like I mentioned, a better user experience. All of our management is housed in a GUI-based dashboard, that's graphic user interface. So we don't have command line. Of course, that's a really big difference between us and traditional deployments. And that means everything is easier to train on and easier to see at a glance, which you'll see in the demo. That doesn't mean that, you don't need to be an IT expert to use our products. Of course, these are still enterprise-grade products and can do some really powerful stuff, but it's a lot easier to get acquainted with our software than it is to get acquainted with CLI. Our products are also extremely scalable. So because we don't have any additional on-prem hardware, for our wireless, for instance, you only need to buy our access points, install those, and they'll just start working. There's no servers, there's no controllers. Because of that, whether you're purchasing 1 access point or 1,000 access points, it's going to be the exact same process. So before the devices ever arrive on site, you'll get an order number from our orders team. You can enter that order number into your dashboard, and you can actually pre-configure those devices before they arrive. So what's cool about that is if you have a distributed campus or a separate office that's off-site or something like that, you can actually drop ship your access points or your switches or whatever Meraki products to that other location, configure it from your wherever you're stationed, and someone on site at that location can then plug everything in, and technically you never actually have to go on site to ensure that everything is going to work smoothly. As soon as the devices receive a network connection and can pull down their configuration from the cloud, they'll just start working. So your access points will start broadcasting their SSIDs as soon as they gain that network connectivity. Our products are also extremely reliable. That's a big concern people have. So if you do WAN connectivity, your network will continue to operate as you intended it to. So of course you won't have WAN connectivity. We don't control that aspect of it, but your devices will store their most recent configuration settings, and your LAN will continue to operate as you expect it to. The only thing is you won't be able to make any big changes to your network while your WAN is down, but as soon as you regain connectivity, you'll be able to make those changes. We also have a set of light features that you can adjust while the devices are not, but you're not going to have full configurability at that time. We have multiple data centers all around the world. They're all, lots of redundant data centers as well, serving every different geography, and we have 4 nines of uptime as well, so you don't have to worry about that. Our products are extremely secure as well. Again, no user traffic passes through the cloud. Our products have been certified to be used in HIPAA and PCI compliant networks. We have third-party security audits, daily penetration testing, and what's really nice about the cloud model is that if there are any network threats, any cyber threats like these, WannaCry or NetNa or any of these new cyber threats that keep popping up, because these are cloud products, we can actually, create a fix and push it out to all networks very quickly, much quicker than you would have with any sort of traditional on-prem solution, and all of your devices will receive that fix. Oftentimes it doesn't even require a firmware update. So for instance, during the WannaCry outbreak, we just updated our database of malicious IP addresses, and that was enough to make sure that our customers were safe. So if you have any other questions about reliability or security, you can check out a whole page that we built out just dedicated to these topics. It's at meraki.cisco.com/trust, and that should be able to answer any other lingering questions you may have. I do want to call out, of course, that, I already mentioned that we have over 2 million Meraki network devices online, and of course, many of those are housed at higher ed campuses around the world. So everything from MIT to Duke University, I'm sure that you're seeing institutions on here that you recognize. So we have lots of happy customers all around the world, including Pfeiffer University. So I'd like to bring the Pfeiffer team on now, and we're going to go through a bit about their deployment and the decisions that they made leading up to purchasing Meraki.
Well, good afternoon. This is Dr. Ken Russell from Pfeiffer University. I'm the VP for Digital Transformation and the CIO. You can go ahead and advance the slide if you'd like to. Right. Excuse my voice today. But we're a private liberal arts college based in North Carolina. We have about 2,000 students, about 250 faculty, 5 locations across North Carolina, 3 campuses. We have a small but very effective digital transformation and technology team that works with all of our technology and our help desk here at Pfeiffer. And we're focused on transforming the technology landscape here at Pfeiffer. For many years, like most smaller universities, sometimes technology gets forgotten about or gets put on the back burner. Pfeiffer has been very much on the front burner. The technology has been very much on the front burner this past year. We work very closely with our technology partners. You'll notice that I don't talk about vendors. I look very closely at having partners, not vendor relationships. But Pfeiffer is on the rise. Pfeiffer is growing, and the Cisco Meraki devices really helped us get to where we're going to be. Go ahead and advance the slide, please.
Could you, before we move
Sure.
on, could you give me a little more background on sort of what your day-to-day is and what your team is expected to be responsible for at the university?
Absolutely. So if I just said everything technology-wise, that'd probably be just too easy. But that's exactly it. The guys on the team, they handle every help desk call, every issue that pops up. We do use some technology partners to help us get through some of the tougher stuff. But I guess the key here is that we manage everything. So I can't expect my team to be experts in everything, even though they in fact are experts in quite a few things. But when it comes to networking and system administration, I've got to be very careful. Historically, setting up a wireless network, wasn't as easy as just kind of taking things out of the box and just throwing them up and hoping for the best. It required attenuation. It required some time to figure things out, to configure. So we needed a solution that was easy to work with, but also didn't tax our talent to the point where I needed to hire new people.
Great. So that kind of brings us to this next slide. Can you tell me a little bit about your previous deployment, your previous solution that you were using?
Oh, absolutely. As you can see from the slide, it's pretty typical from a lot of the smaller universities. Centralized management, older equipment, some stuff we've had. I dare to say is from the last century. It feels like it sometimes. But difficult to do analytics, particularly in a transformation kind of effort. It's all about data and being able to see what the data are saying and what they're revealing to us. If you can't get to it, you can't get the answers. And as Peter Drucker used to say, what gets measured gets managed. If we couldn't measure it, we couldn't manage it. So it was very difficult for us before to get to real data points. We could do one-on-one kind of things. Well, this access point's down. Let's do some configurations on it. Let's figure out what's going on. But as a rule, we couldn't get to everything. So we were looking for something that would be easy to manage from wherever campus or location we were at, even if we were remote in a hotel room someplace. We want to be able to manage our network and see what's going on. If there's a trouble spot, we could fix it. So that's what was our before. Now,
so can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
Regarding your network analytics, what types of problems were you trying to solve that you weren't able to solve because you didn't have that insight?
Well, bottlenecks for one. We have cold spots really. We'd have situations where one machine, one laptop or something or device would be totally fine, and another would just totally crap out. We'd have a situation where everything was fine, and all of a sudden it would be overwhelmed. And then we wouldn't have a good way to figure out exactly what happened. We got to the point where we can kind of guess what was happening, but guessing doesn't solve the problem, right? So we needed something that allowed us to kind of systematically go in and figure out what's going on and allow us to attenuate, allow us to kind of configure and fix things. And our previous system, we couldn't do that.
Great. So now you use Meraki, obviously. What products are you using, and what are the major benefits you're seeing there?
Well, I'll let the guys talk about the products in a second, but I'll just, before I toss it over to them, I'll say that we had a very unique opportunity at Pfeiffer to open up a brand new campus. And with a brand new campus, we had a chance to do everything brand new. So we were very excited that we were able to put all Meraki switches, APs, everything into our new Charlotte campus. And that's been probably the smartest thing we've done in the past year, honestly, because it's made it easy to manage, easy to configure, and easy to work with. So I guess what I'll do is I'll toss it over to the guys. You talked really quickly about it being scalable and reliable. That probably is the most important thing for Pfeiffer, because Pfeiffer is growing. We've had our largest undergraduate class in over 30 years this semester, and it's important for us to be responsive to the needs of our customers, our students. And it was really very difficult to do that without having a really good environment, because as you can imagine, what students care about these days is wireless and bandwidth and no cold spots. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and toss it over to the team. Who wants to do it first, Alex or Scott? Scott?
Yeah, this is Scott Perry, the operations manager here at Pfeiffer University. Just kind of bring you up to speed on some of the equipment that we have. Obviously, we went a full Meraki with everything we did in the new Charlotte location. So that included MX firewalls. So we do have redundant firewalls, and then full Meraki switches. So we've got a full stack with failover. Then we also have some IDFs in the same location. So we've got the one MDF, and then we've got two IDFs in that current location. And then we also went with the brand new MR53 wireless APs that we ended up implementing. And it's really boosted everything that we do, trying to get away from the wired connection. Obviously, a lot of people don't seem to want to plug in this day and age. So the new Meraki APs have been wonderful in that sense. They've got great throughput. They can handle a lot of data. And with having them all in the same management portal, we can view any one of those things at any given time from one login. So with that, I may pass it over to Alex, who's one of our lead techs. I don't know if you've got any questions regarding some of the equipment there or how we're using some of that, but he may be able to also. Yep. Go ahead.
It'd be great to know how you guys are using the dashboard to better understand client behavior and what students are doing on the network and how you've been able to use that to your advantage.
Well, to give you some example here, so when we get into the dashboard, you can actually dial in, log into the management portal there, and from there you can see everything we've got on the network. So at that point, if we need to see something as far down as a simple device, an iPhone, an iPad, a gaming system, whatever the case might be, we can then dig into the switch port, and then from the switch port, we can get down to the level to see the MAC address of the actual device and have complete control over that throughout the process. We can do the same thing whether it's on the wireless AP or even the firewall for that matter.
Great. So it says here that you guys use our heat maps. Can you talk a little bit more to that?
Well, some of the heat mapping is kind of just put in place for coverage specs. So it allows us to be able to kind of see how our coverage is working and how it's being utilized. We may have some hot spots in a certain area to where we've got a lot of people that are really taxing an AP to some extent. We can then switch some of that traffic out and better utilize our equipment.
Great. So let's talk a little bit more about your switching and security that you mentioned. So could you give a little overview of what you're using and, again, how it's been beneficial versus your older solution?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start on that. So, again, right now we currently have two MX400s for our firewalls. And like I said, they are redundant. So pretty much everything is controlled there. So if we've got any ACLs, we apply them there for the most part. We can also do some traffic shaping and a few other things with that as well, which we are doing. We don't do a whole lot of it. Fortunately, we've got a pretty good campus with what we use, and we don't have a whole lot of unwanted traffic for the most part, at least not going out. So with that being said, we then go into the switches, at which point we've got a total of, let's see, I want to say 12 switches. Yeah, 12 switches. So we do have some of the MS425s, some of the MS350s, and then a couple of the MS220s. So the 425s are pretty much part of our stack that make up the main core, if you will, in our NDF. And then we also have the 350s, which are more the layer one, which currently we're not doing any routing protocols. We're small enough to where we're able to still use static routes. So that's kind of a plus for us, too, to be able to get in here and see how everything works.
Great. So could you give a little more detail on the site-to-site VPN that you guys are using with the MX? I know that's a really big feature for a lot of universities and distributed deployments. So could you kind of talk us through that?
Well, I mean, we actually have a MX appliance here on our main campus, which is where our main data center is. So, I mean, with the dedicated link for site-to-site VPN, it's pretty straightforward going into the security appliance and setting it up. And like I said, we only use static IP routes, so it's just a matter of getting in there and setting up those subnets or those VLANs to be able to either use VPN or not use VPN from that aspect as well. So it's all in one place. It's very easy to get to and use. We can turn it on and off at any given time. And we can also use some of the tools to basically troubleshoot. So obviously we've got the automated NAT traversal. And then there's some other things that we're looking at doing with one of our other sites coming up. So this is something that we'll use as a guide moving forward as well.
Great. Before we move on, I wanted to see if Alex had anything he wanted to add. Don't feel any pressure to do so.
Yeah, I can add a little bit about the site-to-site VPN. Traditionally, with your Cisco ASAs, you have your inside security and your outside security, and sometimes when the VPN goes down, you'll have to have someone on both sites where the VPN went down to reconfigure that and bring that back up. With Meraki, it's a lot simpler. It typically if your ISP comes back up, your VPN comes right back up without any issues. You don't have to have people in different places to reconfigure that. And getting different networks through the VPN, it's as simple as a checkbox. I mean, it's a yes or no. If you have the 10.1.1.1 network that's not going through VPN, you hit the drop down, you hit yes, and it's going through VPN. So, I mean, we really like Meraki from that standpoint because it's an ease-of-use thing. And it just makes our lives simpler since we're a small IT department.
Yeah, definitely. So, from what I understand, you guys have some other IT plans on the horizon. So do either of you want to kind of talk about those plans?
Yeah, this is Scott again. I can talk a little bit about it. We've got some other planning coming up with adding other sites, so we're growing as a school, thank goodness, this day and age, that we were able to kind of get through some of the struggles financially from the previous years. We know a lot of other smaller colleges and universities had shut down at some point, so we're thankful that we're still here and we're making this transformation. With that being said, the deployment in Charlotte at our new location was really kind of the leaping point for us from a technology standpoint that's going to allow us the planning and the experience now to apply that to a new site that we're actually building in Albemarle, North Carolina, which is a city about half hour from our traditional campus here with our main data center. So with that being said, we are in the early planning phases of that. So we are now using the blueprint from Charlotte somewhat with the full Meraki deployment with that new Albemarle location, which is really giving us a great guide to go through and figure out how to best utilize not only technology, but Meraki in particular with the firewalls, the security appliances, if you will, switches, APs, and even some of the security cameras that we don't currently have in place. Those are things that we are now looking to add when we go to Albemarle, because this is going to be an occupational therapy and a physician assistant location. So we're going to need a lot of really good technology there that's going to support the type of network usage and data usage that we will have there.
Great. Does anyone else have anything to add from the Pfeiffer team?
I'll finish up. This is Ken again. This intuitive, scalable, reliable, secure is how you started your presentation, and that fits in exactly with what we're trying to do with our digital transformation. We talk a lot about our digital transformation, about how we amplify what we do these days. It's not enough to administer data. We have to amplify it. Meraki makes it easy for us to amplify what we do with a small group of people.
Awesome. Couldn't have said it better myself. So let's move on now. I think we're going to move on to a demo of your dashboard. So I'm going to have one of you help walk me through if there's any features we want to point out. Give me a second. I need to share the application. Here we go. We're logged out, so I'm going to log back in. And let me grab the link to your dashboard. Oh, I'm already logged in here. Okay, great. Sorry about that. So do you guys have a suggestion of where we start out, or I can just jump in?
I would, if you want to show them the summary report under organization, kind of want to start there.
Okay.
So this is a summary report of everything that's going on our network, and you can change it from over the last day to the week to month. And it's really convenient for us because we can see top clients by usage. We can see if there's any websites being blocked or how many websites are being blocked. The usage, the power usage of the equipment as well is something you can see in the summary report. The top applications by usage, and it's really just laid out simply, so I don't have to do any complicated commands in a Cisco ASA to pull a report. It shows us our network usage, and you can change it from different networks. If we go to the top, we can go to Charlotte Main Appliance, or we can go to the Charlotte Main Wireless Network if we click that drop-down. Yeah, switch or wireless network. And then again, you can see the top APs by usage, the top SSIDs by usage, the clients per day, top clients by usage. And that's where traffic shaping would come in if we feel like a client is pulling too much bandwidth, using too much data. we can click into that client and set a policy on that client so they're not able to use as much data as they're using.
So I'll demo that in a second. I was curious, do you guys take advantage of scheduled reporting or scheduled report email?
Yes, I do have scheduled reports being sent to me and other people in our team. I get them daily and weekly reports. They're all different reports. So I get reports for the Charlotte Wireless Network, the Charlotte Switch Network, the Charlotte Appliance, our Meisenheimer Wireless Network, our Meisenheimer Switch Network, our Meisenheimer Appliance, which would be the firewall. And it's all laid out neatly, so I can see each client by usage, what's happening, who's doing what, and if I need to take appropriate actions to maybe put something in a DMZ or block something, stuff like that.
So before I move on, I want to make one more note that I forgot to mention earlier, which is all of our products will work independently of one another. Obviously, the Pfeiffer team uses a handful of our products, which is awesome, and they do work better together. So I'll show you how some of that functionality works. But if you purchase just our access points, they'll work with any brand of switch. They don't need to be Meraki switches, and that's true of all of our products. So I did want to point that out before we move on here.
Yeah, we actually have a Meraki AP in our Meisenheimer office right now, which is connected to a Catalyst switch, a Cisco Catalyst switch, which works perfectly fine.
Awesome. So I'm going to take you through some of the functionality that we were just talking about in terms of looking at our clients and seeing if there's any problem clients and how we can traffic shape their usage. So if we come to the clients page here under their Charlotte main network, we get a list of all of the clients in the network. We're looking at the last week right now, and we can see traffic patterns at the top here. So we see these little humps. These are likely just days in the week when students are going to be accessing the network. And we can change this to the last 30 days or the last day. We'll keep it on the last week for now. And what we can do with this client list is we can actually search through it. So I can do something like iPhone. Obviously, there's probably a lot of iPhones on campus. So we get a list of all of the iPhones that have connected to the network in the last week, even if they're no longer connected. So we can see the green indicates that they're currently connected to the network, and the gray indicates that they're no longer connected. So what's cool is we can go in here and select all of our iPhones. Let's say there's some sort of security breach that happens that's only affecting iPhones. I can come to this policy tab and click block. I can say security threat detected, and these clients won't be able to access the network until I remove them from this block list. I'm not going to do that. That would probably upset a lot of students. But we could do that. We can also dig into our layer 7 application data that I mentioned. So we see this wheel here. It's showing us all the different applications that are running on this network and what bandwidth is being used for each. I can sort these by usage, which they already are. And we can dive into something like Snapchat, right? That's probably not being used for any educational purposes. Maybe it is, I don't know. And we can take a look at all of the clients that are using Snapchat. So we see Brianne's iPhone is using 13.3% of all of the usage allocated to Snapchat. And we can dig into this iPhone here. So we now get a view of what Brianne's iPhone is doing, as well as the applications that are running on this iPhone. So a lot of social, which is to be expected, of course, by students, as well as some web activity. So backing out, actually, on that page, I do want to show you if Brianne had contacted IT and said, I can't connect to the network, what's going on? I was connected and then I was dropped. We can actually see which access point she last connected to. So we see here classroom 3, F2 East, and we can dig into that access point. Now we're looking at a view of this particular access point. We can see basic information like IP address, you know, which switch are we plugged into, which port are we plugged into. So this is a good example of that added benefit you get from having multiple Meraki products. So since the Pfeiffer team has Meraki APs plugged into Meraki switches, we can actually click on this hyperlink here that's going to lead me to this port, and we get a view of that actual port on that actual switch, and we can even run a packet capture from here. So that level of visibility and that being able to kind of backtrack through the network is really unique to Meraki, and particularly when you have multiple Meraki products. So I'm going to go back to this access point.
And the ease of use of doing that is fantastic for us.
Thank you. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I have a Meraki network in my house as well. I'm very lucky to have that. And being able to troubleshoot from work when my roommates are at home is really useful. So a couple of things we can do on the product pages here. You know, we can look at our remote troubleshooting tools. We have the ability to ping the AP. We can reboot the device. We can blink LEDs. Have you guys ever used the blink LEDs functionality?
I have not personally. I don't know if anyone else on the team has, but I have not.
It's okay if not. But it's kind of a fun tool because it allows you to, you know, phone up someone who might be in a different building or in a different, campus location, and you can blink those LEDs on an AP that's having issues and ask them to go just change out that AP without having to go on site. So it's kind of a neat tool. I actually think it's more useful with the switches as well, because when you walk into your big network closet, you don't know which switch it is, blink the LEDs, and you can easily find it. So we have those remote troubleshooting tools. Those tools are available on all of our devices, but they're going to vary a little bit from device to device, of course, because the tools that or the problems that we're going to be troubleshooting are going to vary a little bit between products. Now, going back to that traffic shaping topic that we had brought up before, let's see what it's like to set up an SSID. So I saw that in your future plans, you guys had listed that you are interested in creating like a guest SSID, for instance. It actually looks like you've started the work here. But I'm going to create a brand new SSID so I don't mess up any of your settings. So we'll come in here and we'll pretend that this is going to be the guest network. So a couple things we can do. We can choose how devices are going to be authenticating with the network. So for a guest network, you're probably going to have some sort of key that you're going to share. So we can set that. Just type in a password, and that's that. Then we can come down here. Maybe we want a splash page. So when people are logging on to Pfeiffer's network, maybe we want some terms and conditions of usage here so that we can cover all. So we can create a splash page, and we can choose the behavior here. I'm going to guess that we probably just want click-through. We can also authenticate with a different servers. So we can use Meraki authentication, which just involves you uploading your credentials into the dashboard directly, and we basically host them for you. You can connect your Radius server, LDAP, all of that. We also have Facebook Wi-Fi integration. I'm not sure that higher ed campuses are going to want to encourage more Facebook usage, but if you want to
definitely not.
I figured as much. So we'll just say click through in this case. And we can choose how IP addresses are being handed out, VLAN tagging. We're probably going to want to do dual band operation on any guest APs or guest SSIDs. We don't know if people are going to have older devices, but we could change this to just 5 gigs or dual band. So from here, what's really cool is I can now traffic shape on the SCET network. So we can apply layer 3 firewalls, pretty standard, just enter an IP address. It's probably what you're used to. We can also apply layer 7 firewall rules. So do we want to completely block Facebook maybe based on what you guys said? So we can choose Facebook, and now all Facebook content is going to be blocked on this SSID. I'm not going to do that in our example. I'm a little nicer than that. But we can actually just shape traffic. So if we want people to be allowed to access those types of applications, but we want to make sure that they're not going to be eating up all our bandwidth, we can do that here. So I'm going to come now to all social web. I'm going to select all, not just Facebook. And now we can choose a limit and throttle the amount of bandwidth that these clients are going to be getting when they access these types of applications. I can add another rule as well. So let's say we want to make sure for whatever reason that people are able to use their email. We can do that. And we can ignore any per client limit. So this is going to whitelist all email basically running on this SSID. And we can actually drag and drop these rules as well to prioritize them. So throwing it back to the Pfeiffer team, do you guys have any functionalities on, the traffic shaping firewall side that you absolutely love, or anything I haven't shown?
Actually, we do use a little bit of traffic shaping, and honestly, a lot of it's got to do with Netflix. So that's one of the good things that we do like about using these rules in particular, doing some traffic shaping. We've not yet blocked Facebook, but that's a good idea.
Yeah. I mean, bringing up Netflix, that brings up a great point, which is that, in today's world, we moved from just downloading files. When I was in college, which wasn't even that long ago, we would always download our files. And of course, that puts a toll on the network. But in today's world, everyone is streaming everything. So we have Hulu, Netflix, Spotify. People don't download stuff anymore. So obviously I don't need to tell you guys that, but that puts a huge burden on your network. So moving on here, let's take a look at some of the switch functionality. So I'm going to go to our switch ports page. And we're going to get a list of all 312 switch ports that are operating in this network. So what we can do here is pretty cool. We can actually search for ports 1 through 3 on every switch, for instance, and every single port 1 through 3 is going to populate here. And now, similar to what we did on that clients list earlier, we can actually select all of these ports that we just searched for. We can hit edit, and now we can do something like disable PoE, for instance, and power cycle tons of devices on the network all at once. And these are switches that aren't necessarily on the same campus or in the same physical location. So this type of functionality, which we call virtual stacking, is really, really powerful, particularly if you have multiple locations. I'm going to get away from this page. I don't want to mess anything up here. But that kind of gives you an idea of some of the switching functionality and, again, how powerful that can be. Oh, I forgot to go to our location heat map tool. So the team mentioned that they use this heat map to see if there's any hotspots, if they should move any APs. Were there any other specific use cases you guys wanted to call out?
We do look at the RF spectrum. a little bit to see what the utilization on the APs are and the channel utilization on the APs to see if the airways are crowded or not.
Underneath the specific access points that you're referring to?
I think it's back under the whole wireless tab, and there's RF spectrum.
Yeah, so you can look at RF under individual access points as well as across multiple. So do you want to talk us through what you might use this for? Or how you might use it?
Yeah, if a clients are connected to a specific AP and that AP is on full utilization, we can see if that AP is a problem or if that's the reason the clients are slowing down. And if you actually click into an AP, you can see the actual RF spectrum, the current utilization, and the average utilization of the APs, 2.4 band or 5 band. And you can actually click and see if there's any interfering APs.
Yeah, and this brings up a great point, which is that all of our APs are intelligently communicating with one another. So they're trying to optimize all the time and make sure that they're not running on the same channels and getting too noisy. So it's always nice to be able to check in on whether that's operating as expected. But they are programmed to try to optimize on their own. So I don't know if you guys just saw that, but this AP was yellow, and it was running on 50+% utilization, and it just dropped down because it probably switched over on a different channel. So do you guys ever use, I guess I'll turn it over to you, what pages do you most frequently use for your MX devices?
On the MX device, typically we get in and we just basically go to appliance status. Once we get into appliance status, we can go through a couple of links here or use some of the locations and tools. So you had mentioned before on tools, this is one of the best places that we like to go and check things. You'll find out here that you've pretty much got all the same stuff you were showing earlier with ping, reboot device, blink LEDs, throughput, trace or trace route, if you will, the DNS lookup, and the ARP table. So that's really good for troubleshooting. But typically, if we're just wanting to get a quick overview, just going to the security appliance status gives us that. But then if we click on the uplink, then we can actually see the load and the traffic running across both WANs.
Great. So we're quickly running out of time here. I'm sure we could just go through this dashboard. But I'm going to jump back to our slides here and sort of wrap up and leave some time for questions. So I'm sure there's lots of questions for me as well as for the Pfeiffer team. So just running through a recap of all the Meraki products in the portfolio, we do have our MR access points, MX security appliances, MS Ethernet switches, Systems Manager, which is our mobility management tool, MC communications, as well as MV, our security camera line. So it is, of course, a complete cloud-managed IT portfolio, and we love to emphasize our single pane of glass management, which the team has also mentioned as well. So if you want more details after we wrap up here with Q&A, I highly encourage you to get in touch with your rep and set up a risk-free evaluation. You can get your hands on some kit and get that set up. Our website and our blog are the best places to learn about new features, new product launches, all of that kind of stuff. And I also encourage you to get in touch with your Meraki rep if you want any more details. And don't forget to look out for a call from your rep for that free AP if you are eligible. So turning it over now to questions, we have a few. How many wireless APs are you managing? I'm guessing that's for the Pfeiffer team.
So if we jump in, I know you've pulled out, but if we jump in here, we are currently managing 22 on our Charlotte location, and then we also have about 7 on our Meisenheimer location. Now that being said, we also have a hybrid solution, so we're still using some of the other wireless solutions on the main campus, in which case we probably have somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 access points.
Cool. You guys touched on this a little bit, but there's a question about whether you're applying bandwidth restrictions for students and staff and what those restrictions are.
Most of the bandwidth restrictions that we have are going to be applied across the board. So we can actually go in and set up limitations based on individuals, but at the same rate, we're using it more from a higher level perspective.
So you mean on like the MX side?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Cool. Yeah, so it's worth pointing out you can apply those types of firewall and traffic shaping restrictions that I showed you at both the edge, so with the MX devices, as well as with wireless. So there's kind of multiple of granularity that you can target, bandwidth hogs with. Let's see here. So there's a question about the 12 switches you mentioned. Is that 12 switches for the entire university or just for one campus?
That's actually 12 just for the new Charlotte location. Our main Meisenheimer campus here, which is our traditional undergrad location, we have somewhere in the neighborhood of 130 switches. And then we also have the other site in Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina, in which case we've got a total of about 7 switches there.
Great.
Yeah, Charlotte's really our smaller location, so that's why there's only like 12 switches.
There's a question now about software updates, because I know that can put a big tax on your network. So someone says, have you tried shaping traffic to tone down iOS and Windows updates using up bandwidth on your network?
We have not tried that yet. So, and again, most of this is on our Charlotte campus, so we don't have that much traffic there to worry about. And we currently use SCCM for controlling some of the Windows updates on our Pfeiffer-owned devices.
Great. Sorry, just digging through these questions here to see if there's any more. How user-friendly have you guys found the dashboard to be? We've sort of touched on this, of course, but worth recapping on.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely wonderful, honestly. We're used to using some other products, namely some of the older Cisco Catalysts, some of the Aruba products, even some Ubiquity, but at the same rate, just having the one portal to where we can access everything with a few clicks, and the ease of use, like Alex had mentioned earlier, in controlling some of the site-to-site VPN or VPN connections. It's a simple yes or no click, a simple yes or no answer. So it's really intuitive, but it's also very simplified and easy to use, and it's super quick.
Awesome. Well, I think that's all the questions we have. So I wanted to thank the Pfeiffer team again for joining us and taking time out of their busy schedules to talk to us. And I also wanted to thank everyone on the webinar for joining today's webinar. Hopefully you found it useful. If you want any more detail on any specific products, we do have a series of free webinars covering all of our products, so I encourage you to check those out as well. Otherwise, thank you so much again to the Pfeiffer team, and have a great rest of your Wednesday to everyone else.